Okay, so picture this. You finally got yourself behind the wheel of that shiny new Tesla, you know the one. You're cruising down the highway, enjoying that new car smell, maybe feeling pretty good about, leaving a lighter carbon footprint and all that. But while you're enjoying the ride, your Tesla, it's collecting data. And not just like how fast you're going or your MP3s, we're talking a deep, deep dive into what Tesla's collecting.
Yeah, it's pretty eye-opening when you realize how much data they're gathering.
Seriously. So to break this down, we went straight to the source, Tesla's own customer privacy notice, fresh off the press in May 2023. Think of it like a peek behind the digital curtain. And yeah, what they're collecting, it's a lot.
What I find fascinating is how Tesla's data collection, it goes way beyond the car itself. They're pulling info from public databases, even, get this, your social media.
Hold on. Seriously. Like, they need my Instagram posts for what? Better autopilot.
Well, it's part of a larger trend we're seeing, and Tesla's definitely pushing the limits, this data. They can use it for a lot, like personalizing your in-car experience, training those fancy AI models they're always talking about.
So, like, my Tesla's going to suggest a vegan cafe because of my Twitter.
Exactly. Or it could, say, tweak your driving assistance based on your usual routes and stuff. It's all about creating that hyper-personalized experience. Some might even say predictive.
So it's not just about safety features or making the car perform better then.
Those are definitely factors, yeah. But it's becoming clearer that car companies, especially Tesla, they see data as like this gold mine for anticipating your needs, shaping how you interact with their products, their services, everything.
Okay, so then how does all this data they're grabbing play into Tesla's pride and joy, that autopilot? We're talking cameras, location tracking, pretty sensitive stuff. Do they really have a privacy by design thing going on, like they say?
Let's get into that. Autopilot, it leans heavily on what Tesla calls fleet learning. Basically, your car. It helps improve the system for everyone else.
It's like crowdsourced self-driving.
Exactly.
So if my car has to navigate a tricky intersection, all that data it's collecting could help other Teslas handle it smoother next time. Smart. But how does that actually work, though? Are we talking about, like, anonymous data points on a map, or is it more than that?
It's way more than dots on a map. When you're sharing data for Autopilot, your car, it can actually send back little snippets of footage from its cameras, helps Tesla's system learn, how to deal with different road scenarios, like changing lanes in traffic, recognizing those weird edge cases that we humans we kind of navigate instinctively.
Okay, so it's not just my car learning. It's like all the Teslas out there are like this giant hive mind of driving data, which is kind of cool, but also a little, I don't know, Big Brother-ish. What's stopping them from, going full surveillance mode?
Well, that's the question, right? Tesla says this fleet learning data is quote-unquote anonymized. So in theory, that footage from your car, it's not linked back to you directly. But, facial recognition is getting scarily good these days. And we are talking about cars with, wheels. Makes you wonder how anonymous it really is.
Right. That's a little too close to home. And it's not just about the data going back to Tesla HQ, right? What about the stuff recorded right there in the car, like the dash cam, Sentry mode, all that?
Yeah, that's where things get a bit more reassuring. On the surface, anyway.
So, like, less Big Brother, more like, my car's got a dash cam now. Big deal.
Exactly. Like a security camera, but for your car. That footage, it's stored locally on a USB drive you put in. Tesla claims they don't access that footage themselves.
Unless you give them the... Okay, right. Didn't I see something about live camera access in their privacy notice?
You're on top of it. Yes, Tesla does offer live camera access for Sentry mode. But the key here, it's opt-in.
So they're not sneaking a peek without me knowing?
Nope. You're basically checking in on your car remotely using the Tesla app. Useful if you're parked somewhere sketchy and want to see what's up, It's handy. But the point is, it's your call. You're in the driver's seat, so to speak, about that level of access.
So even with those local storage features, you still got some choices, which is a good transition into our next point, I think. Because when we're talking about privacy and control, Tesla actually gives you more control over your data than you'd think.
I was surprised going through their privacy notice, I have to say.
It's true, Tesla's gone for a more granular approach than, say, some of those other tech giants. But is it really a new standard for transparency and choice? Or is this just clever PR?
Yeah, good question.
Let's break it down.
Okay, so about all that control Tesla supposedly gives you over your data. Break it down for me. What kind of choices are we actually talking about?
Well, right off the bat, right there in your car, you can actually change your data sharing settings.
You can choose to specifically not share data for autopilot improvements or for road segment data, which is how Tesla keeps its maps updated and, gives you those scarily accurate arrival time.
Right, and routes you around traffic jams like magic.
Yeah.
So I can choose to be more protective of my driving data. But what about all the other stuff?
Then there's your Tesla account online. That's where things get interesting. You can actually see and manage a whole bunch of data.
Okay.
From, your charging history to more sensitive stuff, location data. You can even download a copy of your data if you want to see what Tesla's got.
I have to admit, I'm way more likely to dig through my phone's privacy settings than my car's. But this is making me rethink that.
Right. We give our cars kind of a free pass when it comes to this stuff, but they're becoming like extensions of our phones. And hey, speaking of control, let's not forget the nuclear option.
Go on.
You can totally disconnect your car from Tesla completely.
Like, go off the grid.
Yep. No more data sharing, no more updates. You're on your own.
Sounds tempting in a way. But I'm guessing there's a catch.
Of course there is. You lose a lot of the fun stuff. Live traffic, those remote services, maybe even some of the in-car entertainment features. It's definitely a trade-off.
Yeah, like choosing between the digital stone age or being hyper-connected, but maybe sacrificing some privacy along the way.
Exactly. And don't forget, Tesla, like all companies in California, they've got to follow California's privacy laws.
Yeah, which are
way stricter than a lot of the U.S.
Right. California really taking the lead there.
So Californians, they've got more rights when it comes to, accessing, changing, or even deleting their data.
Good to know. So if I'm understanding this right, there are options. It's not just a free-for-all data grab. Tesla's giving me, the driver, some control over how my data gets used. But I keep coming back to this word, safety. Tesla mentions it constantly, often as a reason for collecting all this data. But it begs the question, how do they even define safety?
That's the million-dollar question. The
Right.
privacy notice, it talks about preventing accidents, improving autopilot, but where does it stop? Does safety mean monitoring how I drive or tracking where I go? It's not clear. It's like they're saying, trust us, we're using your data for good, but good is open to interpretation. And that brings us to the heart of today's deep dive, everyone. We unpacked a lot. The good, the bad, and the just plain confusing when it comes to Tesla and, your data privacy. We saw that they collect a ton of info, way more than you might think, but they do give you some control over it, which is a plus.
It's all about being informed. Don't just take the marketing at face value. Really think about what this means for your privacy, not just today, but down the road.
Read the small print, right.
Always.
It might not be a thriller, but it can be eye-opening. And on that note, folks, it's time to wrap up this deep dive. But keep those questions coming. Until next time, stay curious.